There is a diesel technician shortage. We've talked about that subject on the show before, but there's also a gap in training. And that's the subject that I really want to talk about today. How do we solve this problem? My guest today is Dustin Carnes, the training manager at Diesel Laptops. Dustin is a very experienced individual. Before he became the training manager at Diesel Laptops, he worked as a technician for 12 years. So he actually did the job. He took the training, he worked and became Diamond Navistar certified. He got other certification in Cummins, Eaton, Bendix, and he's also ASE L2 Master certified. So he's got a lot of experience and a lot of training. So I think this is the person we need to talk to understand, first of all, what are the problems around training and how are we going to solve them? Dustin, welcome to the Heavy Duty Parts Report. So glad to have you here.
Hey, Jamie. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, you and I were just talking before we started recording about how we both had pretty long days yesterday, so we're going to give it our absolute best today. Dustin, why is training programs so badly needed in the heavy-duty commercial truck industry?
So I think there's a few different problems. Like, for one, the biggest glooming overhead everybody's head is the technician shortage, right? So, these colleges and the schools that are out there they're not pumping out enough technicians for what the workforce needs, right? That's just it's a huge factor. You don't get enough people in, you're not going to get the right people in, and it's just going to compound the issues. That compounded with, the newer technology that are in the newer vehicles and equipment, with the new emission systems that they keep, adding more stringent technology onto that. And then, there's creature comforts, trucks nowadays, they're adding more things to make it just like your car, right? It's going to ride nice. It's going to have all the features that are just making everything more complicated. The electrical systems that they're putting on them, every year there's new systems that come out. That compounded with, there's also a kind of a misrepresentation, or maybe it's just what we normally think of as a diesel technician. Even when you watch movies and things like that, you see the mechanic that comes out, he's covered in grease and he just a grease monkey, right? That's kind of the adage that a lot of technicians get. But nowadays it's completely different, right? There's still kind of that side of things, but with all the electrical systems and all the safety systems and all of these more complicated pieces to the puzzle, you've got to have a different type of person to be able to diagnose and fix these issues. A lot of people think that, you could just, let me grab, my diesel laptops. I hear it all the time. I buy a diesel laptops. Hey, I hook it up. It doesn't tell me exactly what to fix. Well, that's because there's a lot that goes into that. It's not just as simple as, when you take your car to AutoZone and you look up the code. Yeah, that's a piece that you need, but there's all of this other stuff that goes along with actually fixing a vehicle. And a lot of that is skill-based for the technician. Being able to understand the process to go through, understand these technologies that are really more complicated and new and all those type of things, to be able to make a diagnostic technician, the guy that can work on those complicated electrical systems, it just requires a lot of training and a lot of building skills for those type of issues.
So what I'm hearing is, first of all, we have an input problem, and that's feeding the technician shortage. Second of all, we have technology that is advancing so fast for our industry, it's difficult to keep up. So even once you get someone in, they require ongoing training. If we don't train the technicians we have, give us kind of an overview of what's at stake industry-wide.
So, yeah, there's kind of different aspects of it. There's the larger fleets and dealers, they can't kind of get their OEM backing, right? They get a lot of information from the OEMs, a lot of support from the OEMs. But even then, a lot of the ones that I've talked to, and they still have the same issues. And the biggest issues are the core diagnostic skills. And that's kind of what we've built at Diesel Laptops, the diesel training, is building up the core electrical diagnostics, because everything is electrical, right? Like all those safety systems and emission systems and all that kind of stuff that I talked about. It all kind of boils down to they're all end up being electrical systems, and we have a lot of electrical problems. Any repair shop, whether it's a fleet, whether it's a smaller, it's worse for the smaller repair shops because they don't have the OEM backing, right? They don't get all the training from the OEMs. If they don't have those core diagnostic skills, those electrical skills, they understand the after treatment systems, they're going to fall behind. They're not going to be able to work on the newer vehicles, and they're going to be stuck doing, it's going to end up putting them out of business eventually, or they're going to just be stuck doing, very labor intensive tasks, the brakes, and sending everything else out to the dealer. And more, as things are getting more complicated, more of the work is becoming the electrical, the after treatment, the diagnostics, that kind of stuff. So more of it will be sent out to the dealers, and they're not going to be able to work on it really.
And the dealers are already falling behind on workload. Like, how many dealers do you see where the wait times for even to just get a part can exceed a couple hours, and the service times can go into the days? So to put more load on the dealers is not a good solution for the trucking industry, because the trucking industry, I mean, it's the backbone of society, and we need all the trucks rolling all the time. We can see right now how much of an impact it has on our personal lives with the supply chain issues, and how they just can't get containers off the ships fast enough. So when the trucks don't roll, it causes big problems for society. So this will compound that problem even further if the independent service channel is unable to keep up. Is that your assessment?
That's exactly right. I mean, I hear all the time, I don't want to send my trucks out to the dealer. They take forever. It's 2 weeks backlog. It's, 2 weeks, they're a month out. It's constantly, if you could train your technicians in these core skills and they can work on all these different types of problems, you're gonna save half the time you have to actually send things out, just based on just those core skills.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Don't have a heavy-duty part number and need to look up a part? Diesel Parts is a cross-reference and parts lookup tool that makes it easier to identify heavy-duty parts than ever before. Go to parts.diesellaptops.com or download the app on Apple or Android to create your free account. We're back from our break, and before the break, we were talking about the diesel technician shortage, but really the issue with training the technicians we have. Dustin, tell me about the diesel training program at Diesel Laptops. Give us some background. How did it get started?
So basically, Tyler brought me on mainly to begin with training on our diagnostic software, because our core business of Diesel Laptops is kind of still our diagnostic kits, our diagnostic tools. So he kind of brought me on, and he wanted me to create a training program, from a technician to a technician, right? So I started building that program out, and then me and Tyler just sat down talking about it. What other avenues can we take? What other branches are needed for the customers, right? The whole business is built around, what does the customer need? Let's try to fill that gap as best we can. So, me being in the international dealership, I saw what the technicians were lacking. I saw that most of them didn't have the electrical skills that they needed to be able to do the diagnostics and that kind of stuff. So I said, why don't I try, let me just build out a 1-day electrical training class, hands-on. We know technicians, they don't like to sit in a classroom for 8 hours. So let me build some hands-on boards. I built some schematics, built some real lifelike type scenarios that they could walk through and use their multimeter and all that kind of stuff. So we did that, and it was actually a kind of a funny story when we did it. I didn't know what was going to happen, right? Are people going to actually come to Columbia, South Carolina to do electrical training for Diesel Laptops? I was like, I don't know. So we ended up doing the first class for free just to feel things out. And at the time, there was actually another Dustin that worked at Diesel Laptops. And I finished up the class. We got everything done. We shot the marketing out. I didn't hear anything. Like, I didn't hear any signups. I didn't hear nothing. For a couple of days went by. I was like, oh man, like, I guess nobody's going to come to Columbia, South Carolina and do this training. Well, a couple of days later, the other Dustin from Diesel Laptops, he calls me up. He says, hey man, I'm getting all these really weird emails that say people are signing up for this class, and I don't even know what they are. So like we had overbooked the class by like double. So, it was just funny. We'd put the wrong email. It was Dustin at Diesel Laptops instead of D Carnes. So all the emails that went to him, and we booked it up. The class went amazing. The guys loved it. So we said, that's kind of our proof of concept. And I started building out more classes. So now we're up to, let's see, after treatment, electrical 1 and 2, data bus, oscilloscope, diagnostics 101. So I think we got 6 or 7 in-person classes that we do. They're all one-day classes. One thing that we always heard was, I want my technicians to be able to get in, get as much training as possible, and get back to the shop, right? And so we kind of said, let's cram as much information into one day as we can, as long as we can keep them focused, right? Give them as much information as possible, and then kind of get back to work, right? So that's kind of how we've built our program, at least the in-person part of it. We also do online training. We have self-paced training through our DLU platform. We have a partnership with a company called Today's Class that we actually use their platform with the DLU. So there's self-paced courses that they can take for the guys that can't come into the in-person training classes. And then we also, what a lot of people like are our webinars. They're either, hour and a half, 2-hour long webinars on a bunch of different topics. So we kind of try to deliver the training in as many avenues as possible, just to get to as many people as we can. Because, we know every shop out there needs it.
We had Today's Class on the podcast. That was episode 12. And we'll put links in the show notes for episode 12 for Today's Class, because that platform is really great if you can't be there in person. Let's just talk about the in-person training, though. Is it only in South Carolina now, or have you expanded beyond that?
No, so we started in headquarters in South Carolina, and then the first deal we made, there's a company called American Diesel Training Centers. So I don't know if you've had them on or not, but what they do is they do they have a couple different programs, but I think they started with like a 10-week entry level program. So it's basically takes somebody who knows nothing about trucks, nothing about the industry, and take them and get them up to the status where they can actually go in and start, doing low level work on vehicles. A C-level technician that can do PMs, that can, do oil changes, do brakes, that kind of stuff, and actually get them into the industry, right? Because obviously one part of it, we were talking about the shortage, like we got to get people in, right? So they do entry level training. So they have a 10-week program, and they're just trying to get technicians into the shop, right? As a low level technician, just so they can get in there, get their foot in the door, and we can have a technician on the floor working, right? With our training, we're trying to do continuing education, where we're trying to take and build upon the skills of technicians that are already in the workforce. So we kind of partnered up with them, and we do, in a lot of their locations, we do our training classes through their locations. So we've got quite a few locations that we do that with. And then we also started recently, last year, 2020, November of 2020 was our first location that we opened for Diesel Laptops, which is in Dallas, Texas. So that is a Diesel Laptops owned facility. And then I just got back yesterday from opening up our new facility in Chicago. And then we're also looking at Philadelphia and Atlanta right now as well. We're expanding. I don't see us stopping that anytime soon. So, we're going to head West Coast, get down into Florida. So hopefully, within 5 years, we should have a location anywhere in the US, be able to get this type of training.
If you could get it to a place where everybody could access it within like a day's drive, so that they don't even have to stay at a hotel, just come in, do a day's training and head home, that would be perfect. So, and you mentioned Tyler. For those who don't know, that's Tyler Robertson. He's been on the show many times, and he's the CEO of Diesel Laptops. When you and Tyler got beyond the proof of concept and you decided to start to scale this up, what would you say the main objective is for the training now?
There's kind of twofold for us. Part of it is obviously added value for our core business, right? So, with any kit that somebody buys from us, any diagnostic tool or kit or any of that, they actually get a free voucher, so they can use a voucher to come to any of these training classes. So, part of that is to kind of support what Diesel Laptops does as a core business. And the other part of it is, we want to better the industry, right? So anything we can do, any gaps we can fill in the industry, we want to do it the best way we can, right? So we saw, like I said earlier, there a lot of these smaller repair shops, which are a lot of our diagnostic kit customers, they don't have access to this type of training. We've had multiple customers come in and say, I can't get this kind of stuff anywhere. So it's huge for me to be able to come in and do this with you guys. So overall, we're just trying to help out any way we can.
We're going to take another quick break. We'll be right back. When repairing a diesel engine, it is essential to only use high-quality engine parts. AFA Industries manufactures OEM quality complete in-frame kits, replacement engine parts, and seals and gaskets for diesel engines at great aftermarket prices. To learn more, go to afaindustries.com where you can request them to direct you to a local distributor. Check out afaindustries.com today. We're back from our break, and before the break, we were talking all about the diesel training program from Diesel Laptops. It's now in multiple cities, including in South Carolina, in Dallas, Texas. They just opened up Chicago, and then they're also partnered with American Diesel Training Centers. So there are many, many locations where these training programs are taking place. Dustin, when technicians return to their shops after taking one of the diesel training programs, what impact does that have on the technician and the shop that they work for?
Well, it's hopefully a few different things, specifically for the technician, right? And like I said earlier, that we try to teach these really core skills. And a lot of times in our training classes, it's more of a mindset change, a way to look at the diagnostics and think about things differently and build upon the skill level of what they have. There are a lot of OEM trainings, and I've seen a lot of trainings out there for specific products or different things that are very specific to, oh, well, I go in and I get training for this exact product. And when I go back to my shop, I know how to work on this exact product, right? And there was always a joke in our shop, like if you went to Max Force 11 training, you came back and for the next 2 years, you didn't see a Max Force 11 to work on. So that's what we wanted to kind of get away from. And being in the dealership, the stuff that I had to help guys with over and over and over it was always the core skills. It wasn't the, oh, well, the Max Force is like this, or, there's always the repair information that kind of outlines specifically how this engine works. But it was really those core, especially electrical, using their multimeters effectively. If you can teach a technician to use their multimeter effectively, I mean, you're jumping up their pay scale. They can ask for a lot more money. It's going to make them more efficient. They're not throwing parts at it. You talk about the parts cannon. When they get to a point where they're like, I don't know what to do, they just start throwing parts on it and see what happens, right? And that costs money for the customer. If it gets passed along to the customer, if they threw something on there that didn't work, or it costs the company money, right? And efficiency. There were so many times in the shop that a guy would come up to me and say, hey, I've been working through this. I've been looking at this for the last 2 days, and I've thrown this part on it, put this part on it, and put this on it. And I go over there and check something, and oh, well, there's an electrical problem right here. Use your multimeter, check this, and then you end up finding a broken wire with a dollar butt splice, to put it back together, and they've already put $3,000 worth of parts on it. So that whole mindset change and those basic skills, those will elevate a technician way beyond going to a specific Cummins ISX training or specific engine training, those type of things. So that's kind of the way we've built our trainings and our classes, is to be able to elevate their level of technician.
So in the parts distribution business, the manufacturers would come out and they would provide training, which 9 times out of 10 was a sales pitch. And, it gave you some information, but it was never going to be as useful as specific training like what you're talking about. We've already touched on it, but I want to emphasize the point. For the independent service channel, if you own a repair shop, if you're not doing ongoing continuous training with the technicians you do have, never mind trying to find more to join your shop, what is the impact of doing nothing?
It's going to cost you time and money. The biggest thing is an unsatisfied customers, comebacks. It was a huge deal even at the dealership level. We had a few really good technicians that we worked with, but a lot of times, the vehicles coming back and back and back, it just gives your company a bad reputation, right? If you don't have these core skills and be able to diagnose and fix a vehicle on the first try, that customer's not coming back. I got to come back to these guys 4 times before they ever fix my vehicle. That's never going to work out in your favor, right? I saw it in the dealership. I'm not going to lie. There were technicians that would cover themselves, right? That would say, oh, well, I replaced this part and I replaced this part, but it was really bad. But in the end, you're just costing the customers more money. The shop, is not going to run as efficiently. All the issues just compound when this is not done correctly, right? It affects every other aspect of the repair. The customer's waiting longer. They may have to bring the vehicle back if it wasn't done correctly. You may wait on parts that are not even the correct parts to replace. There's just a whole lot of issues that come along with not being able to diagnose correctly and efficiently.
So hopefully people listening have been convinced, and we're gonna get some people to take some action. So what do listeners need to do as a first step if they want to attend a diesel training program?
So yeah, they can visit our website, training.diesellaptops.com. We've got a few trainings, software trainings that they can do for free. And then, a great first step is to check out some of the webinars that we do, because they can do it in their house. We even have recorded versions, so you can watch them whenever, you don't have to come to the actual live ones. The live ones are good because you can talk to our technician and get feedback directly. But if you can't make those times, we make them recorded so that you can just at your leisure watch them whenever. So that's a good first step, is to kind of feel out the training through the webinars. And I'm pretty convinced once you do that, you'll see the value. And these 1-day classes, it doesn't take a lot of your time, right? So it's 1 or 2 days depending on what classes you're going to take. A week max if you take most of our classes. Your technicians are going to come away. We've had some really big companies that we work with, come in and do those classes and say, my guys really, really need this stuff. Everybody needs it. It's not just the big companies. It's not just the little companies. We've seen it across the board. No matter what company I've went to and done some training, that it's the same story over and over. It's available to everybody. Hopefully they can get in and come to the in-person class. That's where to get, the most value. The technicians are going to see it up close and really get their hands dirty and do it. But, we try to make it available as many different ways as possible.
You've been listening to the Heavy Duty Parts Report. I'm your host, Jamie Irvin, and we've been speaking with Dustin Carnes, the training manager at Diesel Laptops. To learn more about diesel training at Diesel Laptops, go to training.diesellaptops.com. Links will be in the show notes. Dustin, thank you for being on the Heavy Duty Parts Report. So glad to have you here.
Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate it.
Would you like to buy any of the parts discussed on the Heavy Duty Parts Report? Head over to heavydutypartsreport.com/buy parts today. Thank you for watching this video. Click here to subscribe to the Heavy Duty Parts Report YouTube channel, and click here to watch another great episode.